Alright, so this is sort of exciting. This is the last technique that I'm going to show you guys. This is really as hard as it gets for elimination, and then really it's just going to be review after this. So what we're going to do today one more time is solve a more difficult system of equations, this time using elimination. And just like we've done every other time, I want us to review how to graph it first because I don't want us to lose sight of that. Let's practice graphing this one together, and then you guys can do the other one, pause it, and see if you did it right. So what is the slope on this one? -1/2, and my y-intercept is 0, -1. So let's graph that real quick. 0, -1, and -1/2 means up 1 or down 1. Down 1, and which way do I always have to go over? Always to the right. Right? I don't have a time machine. So there's this line. Would you guys do the other one? Pause the video before you do it, and then check yourself. Alright, so the other one, slope is 1/4, and y-intercept is 0, -4. So let's do 0, -4, and go up 1 and over 4. So when I do that, there's 0, -4. Up 1 and over 4 goes right there, which gives me my solution at, what is that, 4, -3? Alright, sweet. So before we get into new stuff, I want to review some old stuff again. I'm going to review what we did yesterday, because I actually think the jump from 2 days ago to yesterday is going to be a little bit tougher than the jump from yesterday to today. So again, we're doing elimination. So the biggest thing is that we have to write the system so all our like terms are aligned, right on top of each other. Today is just going to be step 2 again, and that's really all that yesterday was. We're going to make the opposite amount of one of the variables. I'm just going to write VAR by multiplying either equation. And we're really going to do a little bit tougher stuff with that today. Step 3, we're going to add the two equations together, just like we did the last 2 days. We're going to solve the equation with only one variable, VAR, because in step 3, we created an equation with only one variable. Step 5, we're going to substitute that into either equation to find the other missing variable, because remember, we need an x and a y, which is why we have to write our coordinate like that. So today, again, I'm going to start off just like we did yesterday, where we see something like this, and I say, okay, I can't just add them together yet, because if I try to do that, 5 plus 10 is 15, 1 plus -7 is -6y, and that's not really going to help us. I still have an equation with two variables. So what did I do yesterday? I multiplied one of the equations to make an opposite amount. So this one's sort of nice because you could do it with both letters. Anyone have a preference of what letter I should do? Why don't we try x? What can I multiply that top one by in order to get x by itself? So now right now I have a +10. Don't think that's a negative sign, sorry. That's a +10. What would you want underneath +10 to make 0? Obviously it's going to be -10x. But what would you have to multiply 5 by to get -10? -2. So -2 times 5x is -10x, like I just put right there. And don't forget to do it to the other two now. -2y and -18, right? -2y and -18. So that makes those 0 out, which is what we wanted, because now all we're going to have is -9y's is -18 plus -18 is -36. Divide both sides by -9, and you end up getting y is 4, which is all fine and dandy, but we're not done yet. We're really just on step 4. Now I need to do step 5. Plug that back in, and then write them as an equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and say something comma 4. I don't know what it is yet. And I need to plug it into either one of these. Which one of these looks easier to plug back into? Hopefully you're saying that top one, because that top one definitely has way less in it than the bottom. So now let's plug that 4 that we just found in right there. Right? There's a 4 for y. -4 on both sides. I end up getting, I don't know why I wrote a 5. Yeah, I end up getting 5x is, maybe that's why I wrote a 5. And divide both sides by 5, and you end up getting x is 1. Okay? So there's that one. Would you guys pause the video, try number 1? I think there's really only one way to do number 1 down here. We're obviously going to multiply this bottom one by something, but pause it, try it yourself before you just get the answer from me. All right, so obviously I'm going to multiply this one by 2, not negative 2, but positive 2, because I already have 16 x's. So I want a negative 16, and because it's negative 8, there's that. So 2 times negative 8 is negative 16x's, like I stated. 2 times negative 6y is negative 12y's, and 2 times 6 is 12. Those zero out, which makes us happy, because now I'm only going to have negative 22y's is 22, which is really going to be easy. Divide both sides by negative 22, and I end up getting y is negative 1. Don't forget that negative sign right there. That's going to make a big difference. All right, so now plugging it back in. This one's sort of going to stink, isn't it? Because I don't think either are really that nice. Why don't we do, I don't know, that top one scares me with those big numbers. Why don't we do this bottom one? Negative 8x minus 6y is 6. Let's take that negative 1 that I just found from down here and plug it into the y to get negative 8x plus 6, because these two are happy, right? There's my smiley face. So plus 6 is 6. Minus 6 on both sides to get negative 8x is 0. And actually, that's pretty easy. X is just 0, right? So now my coordinate that I just made was 0, comma, negative 1. All right. So the new stuff for today. Why don't you flip to the next page, and before I even say anything about it, take a look at it and tell me how you think this is new. What do you think is new about this one? Well, take a look at the x's. Is there any way to make 4 look like 5? What could you multiply 4 by to get 5, other than a decimal, obviously? Or how about the y's? Is there anything that you can multiply 2 by to get 3? Obviously, a no to both of those. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to, actually, how about this? Just take a leap of faith. Multiply this one by negative 4. And you'll see why we're going to do that here in a second. So you get negative 20x's minus 12y's is equal to negative 8. And now think about it. Did that really help us out at all? What is the amount of x's that I want underneath this negative 20 now to make it 0? How many x's do I want right there? A positive 20. What could you multiply this by now to get positive 20? Yeah, 5. You guys see how I did that? So what I did is I looked at that bottom one and I said, okay, there's a 4 there, so I'm going to multiply this one by 4. And then I looked at the top one and I saw, okay, there's a 5 there, so I'm going to multiply this one by 5. So you get 20 x's, don't mess up when you do this, plus 10 y's is, 5 times 10 is 50. Those zero out like we wanted to. This right here ends up making negative 2y's is, if you take 8 away from 50, you get 42. Divide both sides by negative 2. And you end up getting y is, ooh, that's a bad looking 2. Negative 21. Ooh, that's sort of stinky though. But that's okay. I just got to take that and plug that back in. So what did I just do? I found out that y was equal to negative 21. I just multiplied both equations. So that's what this is stating right here. We'll have to multiply both equations before adding. All right, so I didn't find the x value yet, but I can do that pretty easy. I'm going to just plug that back. I actually think I'm going to plug it into that bottom one. 4x plus 2y is 10. I'm going to just take that negative 21 that I just found down here, plug it in for the y, to get 4x minus 42 is 10. Add 42 on both sides to get 4x is 52. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. Divide both sides by 4 to get, let's do some old long division here. 4 goes into 5 once, which is 4. 4 goes into 12 3 times. X is 13. All right? Would you guys please try one? I want us all to do it the same way. So would you multiply this top one by, let's pick negative 5 to get negative 15x's plus 10y's is equal to negative 10. And then that should be pretty easy for you to figure out what to multiply the bottom one by. So go ahead, pause it. And actually, when I say pause it, try to get rid of the x's. So pause it, go ahead, do that, and try that now. All right, so if I want to get rid of the x's, I'm going to multiply by 3 because that's what's right there. To get 15 x's, this one was actually sort of cool because you could have gotten rid of the y's that way as well. Negative 15 y's is 30. Those go away. To get negative 5 y's is 20. Divide both sides by negative 5. To get y is negative 4, just like they stated. So I'm good so far. And now let's plug that back in. I'm going to plug it into that bottom one just because I really like 5s. Minus 5y is 10. Negative 4 gets plugged in right there. To get 5x plus 20 is 10. Divide, or minus 20 on both sides. To get 5x is negative 10. Divide by 5. Whew, and x is negative 2, which is what's right there. All right, one more for us. The hardest one that I have ever seen is on the next page. This one showed up on the state test a couple years ago. It actually showed up as a word problem, but I'm not even going to give it to us like that. So let's take a look at this bad boy. So this one has decimals, so that's harder there. And what in the world are you going to multiply 20 by to get 21, or 9 by to get 14? That's really, really tough. So again, let's just use the technique that we've been using and our calculator to make this one not so bad. So what am I going to multiply this? Well, 21 and 14 are both bigger. What could I multiply this top one by to make, wow, why don't we do the y's? Because they're both a little bit smaller. It's not 20 and 21. What can I multiply this one by to get rid of the y's? I'm going to multiply this one by negative 14. So negative 14 times 20 is something that I don't know, so I'm going to take out my calculator and go 14 times 20. I don't even need to put the negative sign there because I know it's going to be negative 280. So negative 280 x's minus 9 times 14. Again, something I don't know. 9 times 14 is 126 minus 126 y's is equal to, and I definitely don't know, 44.4 times 14 to get negative 621.6. Negative 621.6. All right. So on that bottom one then, I need to multiply everything by 9. And 9 times 14 is the only one I know. That's positive 126 y's. 9 times 21 though. 21 times 9 is not one that I know. 189, and it's going to be a positive 189 x. And then 9 times 51, again, is not one that I know. 51 times 9 is 459. 459, yeah. See why I said this one was the toughest one I've ever done? That makes those go away. 280 minus 189 minus 189 gives me negative 91 x's, right? Because there's more negatives than there are positives. Negative 91 x's is, all right, I got to subtract these two now. 621.6 minus 459, and I end up getting 162.6. 162.6. All right, almost done. We got a one-step equation left. I don't think you'll ever see one this hard on your state test. They've since changed it to say that this shouldn't be so difficult for us, but we'll see. X is negative. All right, so now all we need to do is take 162.6 and divide it by 91, divided by 91, to get negative 1.78. Why don't we just round it to, why don't we just round it to 1.8? So negative 1.8. All right, so now that I have negative 1.8, let's take that and let's plug that into one of those. I want to do the top one. So taking the top one, I end up having 20x plus 9y is 4.4. And let's take that negative 1.8. Negative 1.8. Plugging that in, I end up getting 20 times 1.8, 36. Look at that. So negative 36 plus 9y is 44.4. Add 36 on both sides to get rid of that. To get 9y is whatever the heck 44.4 plus 36 is. 80.4. Divide by 9 on both sides to get something close to 9, right? I'm not exactly sure what that is. Divided by 9, and 8.9. Whew. And there it is, guys. That is the hardest one I've ever seen. All right, so let's take a look at some final thoughts, and then we're done with these notes finally. Most important thing about elimination is that we have an opposite amount of one of the variables. When you add your two opposites together, you get 0. The opposite of 5y is negative 5y. The opposite of x is, or negative x, is just positive x. And if you need to multiply one of the equations, make sure you multiply everything by that number. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching.